I am live again, I think. It says I am. I don't know whether people will be able to see it.
Not yet, but I am trying.
Yep, it says I'm back live again.
Yes,
Yes.
there it is.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I'll get the link back out again. Please share. I don't know whether everybody's going to come back again or not.
I already got the notification, so
Yeah. Hopefully everybody comes back. I've got oh yeah, it shows some people coming back again. Here's the new link for us back again. Welcome back if everybody's coming back. I don't know what happened there. I didn't even know. It was only because you guys said it. Must have something from Discord must have had a blip, because you said it dropped out of Discord, right? And it must have dropped out of the YouTube as well.
for me, I thought it was still going on Discord while YouTube ended.
Well, I just heard from everybody, went, you're back. That's I didn't know.
It was weird. It just started buffering and it ended.
Yeah. Well, we're back up. Some people are coming back. Give a bit of chance for everybody else to come back. We might have to end up going over this over a couple of days. The Blue Marble defence team, Rumpus is still in here. Brenda sat in here the other day for quite a while.
You know, Bev, if it was my server, I would not allow Brenda back on here.
Brenda's banned now.
Yeah,
there's no way that's coming back again.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to do that. None. I mean, unprovoked. He brings that shit up. Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the only thing you can do when you have no argument, and when you know you have no argument. Right, it doesn't look like many people are going to be coming back. We've lost the audience because of that.
You could still be polite without an argument, Bev. There's no reason to go there.
Well, there's a lot of stuff resting on this, though, right? The blue marble science that a lot of people have been lording over a lot of other people, saying they're science deniers and all of that. Well, all of that stuff, all of that power that they've held over people over all of that time becomes questioned now by some very simple stuff. And if they don't have that power over people to be able to humiliate and downgrade people that they sort of decide, then they've got nothing. So yeah, there's a lot at stake for them. I can understand why people like Brenda, because I mean, who else have they got to come in, send in? Blue Marble's never going to come in, defend any of that stuff. I mean, look what happened when Bob said that he drove a shorter distance than a straight line on a plane. What happened to him? He's gone. He can't come and defend that. Blue Marble can't come and defend literally what Blue Marble's stating at the minute is that every elevation profile ever produced to this date has been wrong. And Blue Marble knows that because it has to curve. because verticals, even on elevation profiles, can't be parallel. And that's what they are in every elevation profile ever drawn. Blue Marble has to say they can't be. All because his model dictates it. Sophistry is rife within the globe model. Right,
I think it comes from necessity, right?
yeah. Yeah. They say the mother of invention.
I was just thinking that
Yeah.
same thing, that same quote. Yep.
And that means just making shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And the simplicity of what we're saying causes them to say some ridiculous stuff that they are literally inventing, like Blue Marble with these curved elevation profiles. I don't know why nobody else had ever pointed this out to them, but it's always been the case that elevation profiles are measured and drawn in the same way that they're measured. That's why they draw them like that. Otherwise, they would draw it differently. If it happened differently in reality, they would draw it differently. Everybody would know what an elevation profile looks like. In reality, they do know what an elevation profile looks like in reality, because they can look at them and say, yes, that depicts what we do. We measure. Shown best with the lock system. All of the horizontals are always parallel. It's the only way it can be. Anyway, let's get back to Mobius and blue.
American Vertical Datum 88.
Yeah.
And the benchmark that they use. Yeah.
So.
And that's WGS.
I'm not,
okay. And that benchmark that they used is called McKinley. And McKinley can be found. I show it in this picture right here, the little red balloon there. There's the, and you can see LIGO down here in the little blue balloon. That's the center station at LIGO. So you can see the benchmark that they pulled all this from is only a couple of miles away from that vertex point.
And just for your viewers, because like I said, I didn't delve too deep into Hanford, but the Louisiana facility, those benchmarks, there were 3 listed from the NAVD 88, and those were a couple miles away from the actual site.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So
that will happen, and so they've got to transport those elevations over to the site, right?
Right.
They have to do that. So
do you think that was first order?
So here's what we got, and of course there's a description of what NAVD 88 is.
Yeah.
Right. That tells you.
Well, while you have that up,
which one?
I'm asking you, like, do you have anything that shows or talks about how they transferred that datum to the actual site? Was it first order?
Yeah, I do have something. Let's see.
All right.
Again, here's the. Well, before we get to that.
Yeah, I went through a bunch of these for the Louisiana site. Yeah. I don't have them.
There's the.
I'd have to dig through my computer to find them. I know I took some screenshots somewhere.
There's the NGS data site. NAVD 88 orthometric height is 563.9 at McKinley. You can see it listed up here, McKinley Station, Washington, Benton County, et cetera, et cetera. The ellipsoid height there is 150.229 meters, but the geoid height is minus 21.636, and that gives you, you've got to add that to the 150, and that gives you the orthometric height. Height.
How'd they get? Sorry.
You
Go ahead.
know what orthometric?
Did anybody notice
Yeah, like a
Go on.
Did anybody notice how he's describing three different benchmarks, three different reference heights, starting points?
Yeah. And you minus one from the other.
Minus one from the other, add the other to the other, and then presto pasta, you got, you know, some weird shit you got to work out.
Yeah, and it's taken from a benchmark. It's just where he's talking about, right? You're talking about transferring the original benchmark to the new place on site so they know where it is. That's one point being referenced to the other point directly with a similar or a parallel plane to the other one to establish the new elevation. Yeah, into the break. I don't know what Blue's trying to do. He's trying to, like, at the minute, I think they're all spreading these paralogisms, and there is no one that has ever done any of this work within the arena anymore. They don't exist. Jesse Kozlowski's gone. The guy that they set up to build on Jesse Kozlowski was an obvious fake from Facebook. That's where Jesse Kozlowski met him, on Facebook. He took on the mantle, but then he's obviously had to go somewhere else and do something else. So he's not around anymore. The next best guy, he's not going to come back either. So they've got no one to take this on. It's pretty sad. Blue Marble is left alone now, trying to convince people. They're just spreading their paralogisms. The things that they've been allowed to imagine by these people that they've had that have come before them, the role players. They've allowed them to be able to think this. But what are they thinking? Who knows? It can't be the actual methods that people use in reality to measure the elevation changes, because they're based on Euclidean principles, and everybody knows what their impression of that is, or their understanding of it is.
right angle.
No. Orthometric height is the, well, let's see. Here we go. There's a description of orthometric height for you that you can look at visually. Ellipsoid height is the height of the surface that you're talking about above the theoretical ellipsoid. Orthometric height, on the other hand, is the height above sea level of the surface. That's what orthometric height means. Okay? So, I'll go back.
See, when anybody ever asks you about your height, how many reference frames do you have for what the answer is going to be? The height above what? The height above the ellipsoid, or the reference frame, or the orthometric? It's like, no, just the height. And this is where half of the problem comes in. They have a height being something like a few different things rather than just a vertical measurement.
Well, yeah, it's a vertical. For Blue, what he's done, he's given you three different reference models for measuring height from. for measuring elevation.
Yeah.
And all of those models that he's mentioned have a presupposed center point that they're measuring the elevation from because of his diverging verticals. Whereas he knows that the measuring rod necessarily is perpendicular to the line, to the horizontal.
Mm-hmm. And
Which
he
can't
does
be,
know
you
that,
know.
doesn't he?
He does know that,
Yeah.
but he can't rectify it with his ECV.
Yeah. He has to keep it separate. There's these contradictions that are just kept so far apart that, you know, if you start looking at one of them, he'll just completely go to the other one. Forget that even occurred. And it's not only Blue Marble. Blue Marble science is the grandpappy that's working for everybody else. He's letting everybody know what you must go with. You have to go with this. Follow Blue Marble science. Or consequences.
So when we look at this, where they say the orthometric height of McKinley is 563.9 feet or 171.878, it's actually the ellipsoid height is the same as the ellipsoid height plus the correction for the geoid, which in this case is negative. So
the ellipsoid height is the same as the ellipsoid height plus something else. I mean,
From the geoid, yeah.
that's how can yeah. How can he even say that and not understand that you can't have something being the same as something and something else? It's like 4. Well, yeah, 4's like 4 plus 2.
you end up adding 21.636 to 150.229 and get 171.878 meters. But that was the bench. That was what they were using as their datum.
Why do you think it changed from datum to date? Or I guess what do you call it? You got the NAVD 88.
Yeah.
Before that, it was the NAVD. What was it? 78 or 74 or something like that. 72. I forget. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then before that, it was like in the 60s or something. It might not have even been the NAVD. It was something else.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those things have changed over time. Sure.
Yeah. Why do you think
What?
the distances are different?
The heights,
Like, yeah.
the ellipsoid, the heights of these things.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, the ground moves, and it's particularly prone to do that out there out west. When you get out in the western part of the U.S., those
But hasn't
elevations
moved since 88.
can change.
I mean that
Well,
structure needs it to be pretty still, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in order to function the way that it
Is Blue Marble saying that it changes because the land changes?
Yeah.
Is he saying
Hashtag
mean
land
sea
tides.
level? Is that what he's talking about? Or is he talking about one of his geoids or ellipsoids or his orthogonal height or what?
I'm not sure either. I not quite getting what he's saying there.
It sounds confused, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because I know that when they did do that, they changed the mean sea level. That's what changed. The reference was the mean sea level. And they, because in America, you have it at the Great Lakes. So the amount of water within the Great Lakes set that, and then they related that to the sea, and that's how it worked. And they changed it because, well, it's some sort of a model that they made, but that's all it did. It changed on the vertical. They just said, well, let's have 1 meter being half a meter. Something like that. I don't know. It wasn't that much. That was the change. They did it on the vertical. So, I don't know what Blue's talking about. Because didn't Blue say that you would have to have different distances? Because the curvature is different with the change in radius.
It says it functions.
You would hope so, but it can change.
I'm just
but still,
wondering.
we're only talking now though about how LIGO was constructed, right? So you can
what
say
it's based on, right? What
you could do.
These principles are based on.
Let's see if you understand this.
Yeah.
While it's always very useful and very for us all the way around to have a specific latitude and longitude and elevation in terms of elevation above some datum like mean sea level. While it's always very useful to do that, you realize that if your objective is just to survey that site locally, you could do little more than go out there and scratch an X in the ground with the boot of your heel of your boot and drive a stake up and say, okay, that's my datum. That's going to be 0. And I'm going to measure every elevation off that point. And it would work. You realize that, right?
Right. So Blue Marble does acknowledge the fact that once a benchmark is positioned to a spike or whatever, then that is what you would use as your datum. Your 0. You could call it whatever you want, but at that point where you move, because obviously he's put a spike in and said that's the datum, but you could then later, at a later date, reference that to an existing datum, and you would then know the heights and all of the how to change every measurement that you've done from that point into the system.
That makes sense.
Well, that's all you do. You just did differential leveling. Good old Blue.
I'm sorry. What?
Did that make
Can you
sense?
repeat that?
Yeah. Okay, I'll try it again. The datum that was used in these benchmarks and so forth are interesting and necessary when you're doing a project like this for a lot of other reasons. But in reality, if all you want to do is lay this thing out, you could go out there and drive a stake up in the ground, put a nail in the top of it, and say, that's going to be my vertical reference. I'm going to reference everything to the top of that nail.
Right.
And that's going to be 0 elevation. I can do that. And it won't change anything, right?
Right. Just like the as-built drawings have, what is it, 0 plus 100 or whatever is they start with.
Oh yeah, they've got an arbitrary point there at the vertex.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, that's 0. Now each point's got for sure, any point on there is going to have a latitude and a longitude and an elevation associated with it. But for convenience sake,
it's got to be straight, right?
For convenience sake, yeah, we're not gonna start listing those things. We're gonna pick a point like that vertex and say, okay, that's 0, and we're gonna measure from there.
Right. So I would agree that you can pick an arbitrary point and designate it as your 0 point.
Sure.
Your starting point, right?
Yep. That's one of the LIGO drawings for Hanford.
Yeah.
They look just like the ones that
No, I know. I've done a lot of, like I said, I delved pretty deep into the Louisiana one. I
Yeah.
didn't delve as deep into the Hanford. I dabbled a little bit. I'm a little bit familiar, but as far as, knowing things like offhand, just
Right. Yeah.
from the hip.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to cross you up or anything, and we could go pull all the same information out of Livingston, and I'm very
Yeah, it
familiar
really
with
doesn't
too.
matter because the
But,
principles are the same, right?
Yeah, they're exactly the same. There's no difference at all. Let me go to the next sheet here. This is one. Let's see. Got to find the little thing. There we go. Now you see something else. This next drawing is one of the drawings in both sets of drawings, whether it's Livingston or Hanford. And you'll see I've got 6 circles on there, right? Those circles, and those circles are identifying GPS points. Let me show you. There it is, blown up. Okay. GPS points, which were called LIGO 1 through 6. 6 is the one that was way off up in the out in the middle of the pasture, so to speak. But 1 through 5 are
Like at a 45-degree angle from.
Yeah, they're up and down the arms. You see LIGO 5 here close to the.
No, LIGO 6. You said it's in the middle. I said like at a 45-degree angle, like from.
Yeah,
the
I'll tell you what. Let me go back and I'll show you where it is. It's this one out here. That one.
So almost at a 45.
That's LIGO 6. Yeah, it's not. It's out there. It's just a geographic reference.
Right.
These other ones, though, the other 5 are up and down the lengths of the arms.
And these right here, these were for the horizontal alignment, right? Not the vertical alignment.
Well, they're vertical too. You see, they've got the elevations on those 5. There are the measured elevations, and those elevations, those were GPS coordinate points, and as it says in the note down here, high accuracy placed by Washington State Department of Transport, DOT, geographic surfaces. So they took the elevation at the datum over there at the benchmark at McKinley, and they transferred them to these points at the LIGO site. So that gave them known reference points that they could line up their GPS stuff with.
Right. So is that before or after they moved the dirt? That'd probably be before, right?
That's before, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been before. And then we get to one of the arms. Not sure which one this is. Well, yeah, I am. There we go. You got a little key plan on each one of these. That's nice and handy to always have those. So it's this station down here at the vertex on the northwest arm, or what they would call arm 2, I think. And you see I just put the red line on there to show you that it's lining up with the vertex. It says that down here somewhere. But anyway, let me zoom in a little bit further on the next slide. And there you see that elevation at the vertex of 533.78 feet, right? And the note over here that delineates defines that top dotted line is the top of the concrete beam tube, the top of the concrete slab for the beam tube enclosure.
That says the tube enclosure.
Yeah, that's the slab.
The top of the concrete slab beam tube enclosure. So is that the top of the
concrete slab, like it says?
Well, because it's encased in concrete, right? They've got the concrete covers over the tube.
Yeah.
So
but this is the slab itself, not the tube, not the enclosure.
So one is the beam tube and one's the tube enclosure? Or one's the slab and one's the tube enclosure?
This is just the slab.
Okay.
This is only these are only the elevations of the slab, that's all. But you get that.
It says tube enclosure there.
Top of concrete slab, which is for the beam tube enclosure. That's what the beam tube enclosure sits on.
Oh.
Now we've got other drawings that will show that if you want to see them. I'll have to go to the as-bills and find them, but they're in the details.
Mhm.
So there's like the vertex end of this thing. Oops. And well, let me back. Did I get ahead of myself? I don't know. Yeah, there's the end of that.
You hear the way he says the vertex end. The vertex end of these things. He's measuring an angle. And he did say earlier about it being more than 90 degrees. So, the vertex sounds
What was
to
he
me
talking-
like he's measuring up from this line on. I don't know.
Is he talking about the 90 degrees from the arms, like the relationship of the arms?
Don't know. He's talking about the vertex of, like, he's saying along a straight line there's a vertex. Now, I think this is part of his ECV. I think in order for him to not look at it as though it's a horizontal line, he has to imagine there's a vertex point somewhere, and then he can still imagine it's something to do with an angle. It doesn't then have to look at horizontal, right?
I took it like he was talking about the intersection of the two arms. The vertex
perpendicular.
of the two arms.
The 90, but he said all of them were more than 90, except when you lie it down. I don't know. Does 90 only work in one other year?
Well, what's weird about it is that they designed this thing to be 90 degrees, but I don't know how that works with the other stuff they talk about.
It's all blue marble will explain it to his guys at some point. I mean, we're quite all right with knowing what we know about it. It's up to
I don't
Blue.
want to confuse myself with what they've got to say. Yeah.
let Blue teach that to the rest of his subjects. He is the big grandpappy.
Same to you. Here you go. Let me look down here. We were looking at this one a minute ago. Now we're looking down at the far end of it, right? Now we're all the way down at station 13,100. And when we zoom a little further in, where you can see it, there you see that elevation, 529.63. So the other one was 533 feet. This one's 529. That's the 4 foot slope that these things have.
Real quick, while you get that slide up.
Yep.
Because this is something that we talked about before, and I know you wanted to go over the decimal placement for, how you average or you round up, to certain things. Like you've got the 3 over there on the left at 126, 127, 128. It all has the same. And the next diagram or whatever that would be the 126, 125, 124, and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'll have a certain elevation mark on there, and it says, what is it, 529.64 feet, 529.64 feet, 529.64 feet.
Yeah.
And those are how many feet apart?
100 feet.
100 feet, right? So there's 200 feet right there that has the same elevation. And you're saying that I want to be clear what I'm talking about here. I'm not saying that you wouldn't have a rounding thing going on. But where do you get your information from what the precise measurement would be? Is it from the geoid, the orthographic, or the ellipsoid, or which one of those uh, models? Which one of those models would you be getting that precision from? Because
I don't remember
do you remember what you were
about
referencing?
about all of
which
that.
model?
But what I'm not using anything other than these
Well, you
reported
said
elevations.
you used a prescribed radius value
I'm only
to
using
get that sort of precision. You used a prescribed radius value.
well, yeah,
I don't
you
know
would
if you
have
remember in your video you pointed
yeah,
it out.
sure, and that's what you
So
would do.
is that
But
prescribed radius value the orthographic model, the geoid model, or the ellipsoid model,
well, orthometric, not orthographic,
or
but
the spherical
or,
model? Because the sphere is different than
these
the
are
ellipsoid. The ellipsoid's different than the orthographic, and the orthographic's different than the geoid.
orthometric is not
Orthometric, right?
is
Okay.
what we're talking about. These are
Yeah.
orthometric heights. These are orthometric elevations. That's
So
above
when
the
you
geoid.
factored in the precision to the fifth decimal point, were you using the orthometric model
When I
with the
factored in,
prescribed?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. What I when
Well,
I
you used an
factored
exact
in,
measurement for a radius to come up with the exact precise measurement to the fifth decimal point for these differences in elevation.
I don't think you ever understood what I was showing you.
You were showing me
the
that
problem.
a decimal can be rounded up to the nearest
I'm showing you that if you take
value.
if you take a theoretical perfect curve, right, that is varying at a rate of 8 inches per mile squared, which corresponds to a radius of 3959 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And you do just strictly a mathematical calculation of what the elevation should be, and you carry them out as many decimal places. You can carry them out 50 decimal places for all I care. But when you round them back down to what was actually measured, which is only to 2 decimals, it works perfectly. That's all I was showing you.
And I never
My
disagreed with
information.
you. You made all these different comments about my intelligence based on this stuff, and you didn't ever even give me the opportunity to explain that I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Well, do you understand now what I'm talking about?
I
These are the
understood
actual
then,
measurements. These are the actual measurements.
I understood then what
These
you
are
were
the
trying
actual
to do.
measurements. You were questioning
want-
why
I
always.
just-
You were questioning Mobius. Okay, you go ahead.
Okay. I was not questioning where you were getting this information from. It's obvious where you're getting this information from. You're using a prescribed value to then calculate hypothetically a more precise value up to the fifth decimal point.
Well, let's be clear about what you were doing. You were questioning why this thing is 564, 564, 564, then 563, 563 over these distances. That's what you were questioning. Why is this pad flat over those distances? That's what you were trying to say. And all I was showing you is that it isn't necessarily flat. Those are not necessarily precisely the same elevations if you had the ability to measure them beyond 2 decimal places, but they don't. That's measured to 1/10 of a foot, which is no 100th of a foot,
Baby's still there.
which is 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Oh, that's all right. I just wanted to clarify too, because Blue's whole argument was what the documented values say, not what he interprets, not what he can calculate after the fact, but what the values say. And my point with that, just for anybody who's listening and cares, was that the values have 0 elevation change for 1,000+ feet at a time. And that's all I was trying to tell Blue was the documented values show 0 change in elevation over whatever distance.
Yeah.
So he's inputting information that is not included in the documents that he's arguing about. So I don't know what that all when, like, say in court, when you got, this lawyer's got this lawyer's got this evidence, have to disclose evidence, and arguing outside of that evidence is not allowed. You can't like say, okay, well, this is my evidence, and then at the last minute say, oh, but if I take this evidence and do this with it, then then it works. Well, that's not what you submitted as your argument, so it gets thrown out. Not all the time in courts. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't saying or that that the shape of the zero elevation change. I'm just simply saying that the documented values are what they are. I'm not adding my own interpretation to that. Whereas Blue has to add his interpretation, and then he has to go with a precise radius value to give values to the 5th decimal point. And whereas earlier he demonstrated that he's using at least 3 different models with various radius values at each of those on each of those models. So he goes a long way to get out of talking about the geometric principles that I'm trying to talk to him about. He spends more time avoiding that, talking about all this other stuff, than talking about the thing that gets him where he's at. Anyway.
Yep. Getting into a bit. Blue's explaining very well. He's going into technical terms, isn't he? Completely missing the fundamentals of the basics again.
Well, and he's misrepresenting what my point was from the get-go. A long time ago, when he made the comment about, I'm too stupid to understand rounding numbers. Like, that's a ridiculous statement. Obviously I know how to round numbers, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what's documented as the values in the LIGO paperwork. I'm not saying, that I don't know how to round numbers. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to clarify that because
he does misrepresent you, and he has. I can remember when we were back over in his server, wasn't it? We went over to Blue Marbles, and that's when all of that started off. I can remember it because there was a team of them, wasn't there? There was a full team of people doing it.
Yeah, and there's these subtle things that he does. These subtle remarks that he makes that get you off track. Like, you don't pay attention to the focal point. He tries easy.
Yeah,
it just
going a bit.
Anyway, it's just
going a little bit robot-y. Is that just me, or is that everyone? I don't know whether the internet's going a bit funny for us a bit.
I'm not hearing anything weird.
You're not hearing Mobius going a bit robot-y, you're not?
Yeah,
Yeah, he definitely is.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it's you, Mobius. Well, we'll carry on listening to the video. At least that we can hear that, Mobius.
And that's all I was doing.
1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, 1/8 of an inch. These are accurate to within 1/8 of an inch.
Because here at
100th of a
129,
foot.
it's 529.63, all the way up to 133 is 529.63. That's
Yeah. And
how
all I
many
was
hundred
showing,
feet? That's 1, 2, 3. That's 400 feet showing the same elevation. And
Sure.
you're saying that that's within a range of 1/8 of an inch.
that's exactly what a circle does, Mobius.
So 1/8 of an inch
exactly
over
how-
400 feet.
Yeah, that's exactly how a circle behaves. Precisely.
I'm just asking you if you're saying that 800 feet, you get 1/8 of an inch difference.
Yeah.
So how do you measure that in reality? Like, how would you?
Well, you don't even try to. They're measuring as well as they can here at 1/10 of a foot or 100th of a foot.
And
that's very precise for
and they're doing that with what?
For concrete, huh?
What methods are they using for that?
Well, I wasn't
to do
there,
that?
but you could do that. You could do that the old-fashioned way with just a theodolite. You could easily measure those elevations. Now, you believe that, right? If you go to one end of this thing, say this bottom end, and say 529.63, that's my benchmark. That's my zero. Then I can start walking my stick up that pad in 100-foot increments and taking measurements of it, differential leveling it.
You'd want a proper level, not a theodolite. You're doing differential leveling. Surely an auto level would be better, seeing as that's the best tool for measuring elevation changes. But I think he's been told otherwise by people that aren't around here anymore. Somebody's been feeding blue marble paralogisms around surveying, and he's never bothered to ask a surveyor in reality. He's only listened to fake role-playing surveyors to get his paralogisms.
And come up with every one of these numbers. Do you believe that? I believe it. I don't think you'd have any
What
trouble at all
numbers?
doing that. The numbers you see there on the page.
Yeah, the same numbers at 129 is
Yep.
133.
Yep. I think that's exactly what you can get.
So you're getting the same elevation, but you're saying that there's 1/8 of an inch difference.
No, I said the resolution there is to within 1/8 of an inch. That's 1/100th of a foot.
And
12 inches
You know-
times 0.01 is 0.125. That's 1/8 of an inch.
So
0.12, which is almost an eighth.
these
of an inch.
elevations were established before or after the thing was built.
These things are called as-built.
So
There's-
after?
That's what as-built usually means. Yes.
Okay.
This always gets me. So they make the building and they build it and everything, and then they get somebody to come round to check the measurements after the fact.
No, that wouldn't happen.
Well, usually, like in construction, I don't know if I'm breaking up right now or not, but usually in construction, you'll take notes of what you're doing as you do it.
As you do it, every step, exactly.
Yeah, and you work to the plans, right? If there's any change or deviance from the plan, then that has to be noted, and you have to tell the architect or whatever, right? Otherwise,
Right.
you build
Yep.
to the plan, the blueprints. You don't then go round afterwards to make sure that you did actually do that. Like it's always confused me, these as-built that Blue Marble. I mean, I've never heard anybody else use that term, and yet I've heard Blue Marble use it hundreds of times, and he's the only person who I've heard say it. Almost as though his argument relies on
what
it.
they're called.
Yeah.
But I mean, it might be called something else in the UK. But it's
Are they plans, or are they surveyed things that are done afterwards?
no. So say you get a job that's drawn, like an architect or an engineer designed a job, drew it out to code or whatever spec, and then you put the thing together and you check off the things as they're planned, as they're designed, and then any changes that you make to the plan, you either have to get approval or note the changes, so that in the final as-built, the as-built reflect what's actually built.
Yeah, so if you build everything to the blueprint, then the as-built will be the blueprint.
And depending on the size of the project, I mean, the plans come in pages, like 1 through 5, 1 through 20, 1 through 100.
Yeah.
You build page 1 first before you go to page 2. That's the way the drawings are given to the construction people.
Yeah.
You don't go to page 5 first and start building. You start at page 1.
Yeah, like a 5-story building, you don't start building story 4 before you get the foundation built.
Yeah.
I guess in some like prefab type stuff, you might be able to, off-site, whatever, but some unique situations.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few of these drawings in the course that I did at college. We had to do this sort of stuff, so yeah, I know how it comes.
Like a model that you get, like a toy model, you put together with glue, and it's got all the pieces, it's got all the plans, and you just put it together according to the plans. And sometimes you got to make little changes because the pieces don't quite match up right or whatever, so you have to kind of improvise a little. You might have to add a little here or cut off a little there or whatever to make it fit. But then the finished product looks pretty much like the picture on the box.
And I think that happens in any construction project.
Yeah,
exactly. And I was trying to find earlier about that, how the actual alignment of the laser and the mirrors and everything, I was trying to find the document. I've got it somewhere. I just couldn't find it. I was kind of like rummaging through my file on it, but I couldn't find it. But there is a document on, from LIGO, where it talks about the alignment of the mirrors with the laser, not being what the theoretical alignment would have been. Like they had to make adjustments from the theoretical alignment to align it right in reality. So if they're aligning these things according to some sort of curvature of the horizontal or whatever the hell, that was wrong, and they had to align it according to what works in reality versus what the plan was, basically. So, and it's just in like a little couple sentences in a paragraph, but they're not going to put that on the brochure. You know, I'll have to dig it up. I'll share it with you guys later after I dig it up. But I think I've shared it before.
So these particular
not go for too much longer on this.
Values
We'll come back
were
to it
derived
tomorrow.
from standard old-fashioned optical tools, or were these the GPS values?
Yeah, I told you I wasn't out there, so I can't tell you whether they actually used GPS to do this. They could have, but you could just as easily have done it with a theodolite.
Okay, but the cart that you showed earlier, that has a GPS on it, right? And that was used.
Well, that's used for straightening the tube. Yeah.
For straightening the tube.
Yeah.
So we don't have the values for that, for the center line of that tube.
No, I don't have them.
Because I looked for them too. I didn't see the length of the tube, the values of that center line.
I'm not sure who's got them or where you would find them. Honestly, what I know is what was reported in there in the paper that they presented about how that thing was aligned, and they claimed the RMS deviation of 4 millimeters or something like that over the length of it.
Over that length with the laser in a vacuum, right? Light in a vacuum. The deviation.
Just point out, he said that there was 4 millimeters deviation over the arms, and that would be known because they are arms of a certain length with a perpendicular relationship. It's a triangle, isn't it? So when they build it over that distance, and they are able to say they are within 4 millimeters of perfect, that perfect would be a triangle with 180 degrees. That's how close they got to perfect, was 4 millimeters over something that's got 2 arms that are 4 kilometers long. That's pretty good. That's pretty accurate.
4 millimeters, like up and down deviation, or
no, it won't be up and down on the horizontal. It'll be 4 millimeters in the on the horizontal plane, right, on the XY coordinate plane. Like they said when they did all of the trig points in the UK, they were like a foot originally, and then they redid it again, and they got it within similar sort of measurements, 1/4 of an inch or something. They said they got to the accuracy of all of the points.
These tubes are made of what? That the laser fires through.
Yeah, just steel tubes.
Steel.
3 millimeter.
Oh,
can't hear you, Mobius.
Are you there?
I
said I think it's 3 millimeter. The walls of the steel tube. I know it's pretty thin, and I thought that was kind of weird with the amount of vacuum that it's got in it. Yeah, that's negative pressure. I shouldn't say negative pressure, but
yeah.
The absence of air, the absence of pressure, I guess.
10 to the minus 9 is what's been stated, which I think is absolutely ridiculous for something so big and sausage-like.
Well, plus, I mean, if you've seen those tanker implosions, right? Those things.
Yeah, they don't get anywhere near 10 to the minus 9, do they? I mean, that's
not even
something ridiculous, like hardly any.
Yeah, I saw a video where they had the the gauge when they were testing it to see like at what point does that occur. And I forget what the pressure reading was on the gauge, but it wasn't 10 to the negative 9
Yeah.
vacuum, that's for sure. And that thing crumbled like a soda can.
Yeah. 2 miles long. I mean, nah. I'm.
What kind of support are they putting on the interior of that thing to prevent the vacuum from sucking the pipe in?
I don't know.
You think they would have to put some type of structures in there, wouldn't you?
You have to trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've got pictures of the insides of the tubes. I don't remember seeing any like additional support structures on the inside versus the outside, but
They could have done it from the outside.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the laser in the vacuum. Again, we're back to that. But
Oh, well,
no,
maybe we're
I
talking
think
about different documentation.
No.
I saw somewhere where it talks about the deviation of light in a vacuum over so many, so much distance.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Let's not confuse the alignment of the laser beam itself with the
That would be the light.
straightening of the tube itself.
Like I said, I don't know where the light is in reference to the center line of that tube, and we don't really know where that tube is in reference to that slab, right? So I don't know.
Okay.
There's a lot of unknowns still with all of this.
Well, all that boils down to this, though. These are the as-built elevations plotted on a horizontal scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like if you try to plot that thing using sea level down here, 0, and going up to 600 feet above sea level. That's what it looks like. It's just a straight line. You can't tell, right? But when you expand that a bit and make your y-axis begin at 529 feet and go up to 534 feet, you get that curve from the actual pad elevations that are shown on the LIGO.
I don't know how much further you wanted to.
Go on.
I don't know how much further you wanted to go on this, but I think the rest of it is going to be about that diagram, the blue, green, the bending straight line on that XY graph that he's got.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Remember that diagram that he was putting up? I think the rest of this is just going to be mostly him trying to work that into his presentation. So I don't know how much more you wanted to go tonight. But
yeah, it is getting late. And that
might be a good stopping point.
Yeah, if you say that's what he's getting into, because that's where we came into this yesterday, was Blue Marble wanting to tell everybody that the elevation profiles are wrong, and he's got some way of curving. And this is where it all comes from, isn't it? It's from LIGO. He's trying to justify the Hump model that Jesse Kozlowski gave him on Lake Pontchartrain into the straight elevation profiles of LIGO. Pure confusion on the Blue Marble's part. Yeah, we can go over that tomorrow then within the geometry. If we, will it be worth it going over that tomorrow? maybe your connection's a little bit better tomorrow too.
I was just going to say that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? Whenever you try and speak. So yeah, we will come back tomorrow and do that. And the stream did end as well, which seemed to end up losing a few people. Thanks for sticking with us. If you did, if you're just making it back, we are going to be ending it now. Thanks for being with us. This is going over blue marble science and the contradictions that lie within it. I mean, blue marble has contradicted himself many times. We've done a lot of things. We'll try and expose a few more of them, but we are looking forward to blue marble coming back and showing us how to curve the horizontal baseline elevation profiles that we all know, and how they are all wrong according to blue marble science. I think he's going to put a hump in the middle of every one of them. Don't think he can go for the nutsack drop. Think blue marble's a hump guy. Okay, let's see. I'll save that video in that position. Keep it there. We can come back to it tomorrow. Buster. Greatest speech. Okay. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks for sticking with us. We will be going a bit more over the blue marble. I did notice a lack of blue marble in the chat tonight. That's a bit strange. Maybe something. I've got a theory I've been working over with the guys in the chat about this. I'll see whether it follows through. Okay, thanks for watching us. Join us tomorrow. It will be Euclid night. We will probably go over the rest of this video and speak more about how blue marble wants to bend that horizontal somehow. You'll have to ask blue marble how he's going to do it or how it will work. Join us tomorrow. Thank you very much.
You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men. Machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. Let us fight to free the world. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You are men. Let us fight to free the world. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. A decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. You, the people, have the power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite.